Who knew it would take 17 years to get a sequel to The Incredible Hulk? And now that we're doing the multiverse, maybe we can get an Edward Norton cameo at some point. Welcome to Box of Chocolates, where you never know what you're going to get. Today, you're getting my opinion on Captain America: Brave New World. It's our first MCU movie of 2025. There's been a lot of talk about potential drama and issues behind the scenes, people not really knowing how this was going to turn out. I was rooting for it because I like Anthony Mackie. I've always liked the character of Sam Wilson. I wanted this to be a success. For his sake, I want to be able to say Marvel is consistently good again. But how did it turn out? Let's start off with the positives. I think Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford are the best parts of the movie. I really liked Falcon as soon as he was introduced in Winter Soldier. I thought it was a great move for Cap to pass the shield on to Sam, and so seeing him finally being able to lead his own movie is really cool. He's likable, he's really good in the action scenes. It's cool to see a character who had superpowers pass the mantle on to somebody who doesn't. Even though he has this incredible gear, which is awesome, he has the shield, of course, but then he also has the wings, which are vibranium, so they can do the whole kinetic energy transference thing like Black Panther's suit, and he's got all this other tech. He's got these things that differentiate him from Steve Rogers, but that also make him feel a little bit more relatable in certain ways, because even though he's mostly going to be on top of things, there does feel like a greater sense of danger for him, because he is just a guy. It's cool seeing him do things that Steve couldn't do, like fight in the air. Captain America having wings is just perfect. And when he is in battle with Red Hulk specifically, that's when the tension is at its highest. I actually felt a real sense of danger. The man is not going to die or anything. But I really like the way they portray Red Hulk. They portray him incredibly strong. He's intimidating, he feels powerful and dangerous, so when he's going to grab Sam by the head or jump a million fucking feet into the air and potentially land on the guy, it feels like you gotta be careful. One wrong move and you will die. And I liked Harrison Ford in the role as President Ross, and then the mocap when he's Red Hulk. I thought he was doing a really good job. It was cool to see him. Rest in peace, William Hurt. That's a real shame, but it's nice to see Harrison Ford take on a role like this. Seemed like he was having a lot of fun. And it's nice to see the character get this kind of attention, because he has been around in the MCU for so long. I joked about it in the beginning. A lot of people have been saying this feels like an Incredible Hulk sequel. I didn't mean that as a bad thing, by the way. Some people might, but I actually think it's kind of cool. I think it's something interesting you can do with a shared universe other than just having the heroes team up every now and then. You could have side characters and side villains from one hero's movie become the main villains in another hero's movie. I think that's kind of an interesting idea. You had these things that were set up, like with the leader and all of this stuff in Incredible Hulk all the way back in 2008, and for that to finally rear its ugly head again so many years later, and Sam just being the one who happens to be around and has to clean it up, I think that's kind of neat. Yeah, you could argue that the leader and Red Hulk should be Hulk villains. I get it. It's just the whole rights issue, like whatever the deal is with Marvel and their ability or desire to make a Hulk movie. That's just been a weird mess. But in general, I'm cool with the idea of bringing characters like that, or even things from the Eternals with the giant celestial man sticking out of the ocean, and addressing them in other movies. As for some of my mixed elements, even though I like a lot of the action, I like the way Sam used his gear, I like the way he had to get creative with his styles of combat to compensate for the fact that he is not a super soldier, I like the aerial stuff, there was tension with the Red Hulk scenes, there were some really good bits of action in this. It's not edited the best. It's fine. You can see everything that's happening. I actually think it gets better as the film goes on, but especially early on, there's a decent amount of cutting to where it's just serviceable. It's not really giving the actors the best opportunity to show off the training and the stunt work and the choreography. It's edited a little bit too much for my taste. The other thing is the humor. It's not a Marvel movie that's going for humor all the time. It's not Deadpool. It's mostly trying to be fairly serious. But when the humor does pop up, I was mixed on it. There was one good laugh that it got out of me, one eye roll where they told a joke in a moment that interrupted something that should have been serious, and I think they included that in one of the trailers, so you might know what I'm talking about. And all the other jokes were harmless, fine, weren't bothersome, but didn't really do much for me. This isn't a big deal, but I wanted to bring it up. I really liked Sam's suit from Falcon and Winter Soldier, so fuck me, I guess, because they got rid of it. For the majority of this movie, you get the blue suit instead, and it's fine. I just prefer the other one. As for my negatives, there are so many other characters in this film who feel completely wasted. Giancarlo Esposito is in this, and he's just like some guy. He's some bad dude. You don't really know much about him. He uses a gun. He's just some bad guy. What a waste. What a waste of that man's talent as an actor. You get him in the MCU and I don't even know the guy's name. He was just some dude. I don't really like the new Falcon. I think the actors here all do a fine job, but there just wasn't really much interesting to this guy. He didn't really have much of a personality that I thought was interesting. He was very cocky from the beginning, and he never really did anything to earn that. He just seems like Sam, but worse, because Sam also has wings, in addition to being Captain fucking America, so it makes Falcon look a little shitty in comparison, and I never thought their dynamic was as interesting or likable as Sam's was with Steve. So I got absolutely nothing of having a Falcon in this movie. I didn't hate the guy or anything, but the character did nothing for me. There's a character named Ruth, and there was all this drama because the character is Israeli and the actress is as well, and so it seems like there were some changes behind the scenes because of current events going on in the world. If she had a bigger role at some point, her role is pretty heavily trimmed down here because the character just has nothing interesting about her. I kept kind of waiting for something of note to be revealed with her, for her to really step into some kind of major role, and she just never does. She's around, she fights a little bit, but she's very unmemorable. They kind of trimmed her role down to nothing, and I really didn't buy the actress in the role. She's really tiny. Maybe she's not. Maybe all the dudes in this movie are just gigantic, but whenever she's standing next to anybody, she looks small as shit, and her face is very young looking. So when she starts kicking ass, I honestly thought she had super soldier serum. But no, she's an ex-Black Widow. I don't really buy it. I just don't think she was the right fit for the role. Tim Blake Nelson is finally back as the leader. It's been so long, and that would be a great villain potentially, a real intellectual threat who could really mess with people and pull off these grand master plans. And he just doesn't really. The plan is rather simplistic. It's pretty obvious to us what he's doing the entire time, and it kind of feels like a waste, especially after so long. Him finally getting to do something. Like, I've been biding my time in the background for more than a decade. I'm gonna be the big villain this time. And it's like, well, I would have been fine if he never came back, actually. That just wasn't really that interesting. There wasn't much going on with him. I understood why he was doing what he was doing. I understood why he was upset. There just was kind of wasted potential. Luckily, you also have Red Hulk as the physical side of things, and he was cool. I enjoyed that part of the story, but the intellectual side should have really been there to balance it out, and it just wasn't. And that brings me to the story itself. It's really, really simplistic. And for a movie designed around a villain who has a big brain, and that's trying to be more of like a grounded political thriller, the politics are like non-existent in terms of what it's actually trying to say. Absolutely nothing of merit at all, nothing meaningful, nothing deep. And some people might be okay with that. Like, I just want to go in there and watch a guy fly around in the air with a shield that bounces off of people and smacks them in the face, and that's it. But when you're actually telling a story like this, you are involving politics. One of your main villains is the president. You're working on a treaty between nations, and there is what is meant to be political intrigue. There's a good stretch in the middle where there's no action, and it was actually rather dull because there's just not really much to the story. It doesn't really have much of an interesting message. The thriller aspect of the political thriller is practically non-existent. I'm never in suspense. I'm never on the edge of my seat like, I gotta figure out what's going on here. Like, I wonder if the problem is gonna be the giant red guy and the creepy green guy. What is the intrigue exactly? It feels like they're trying to treat it like it's bigger than it is because they're using words like international treaty and they're technically involving politics. But it's really, really basic in the way that they actually execute it, to the point where after the final action scene of the movie, I thought, that was really cool. I enjoyed that a lot. But that's not it, right? There's like a whole bunch of story left to tell, right? You gotta wrap this up and turn this into something really meaningful and give some heft to this. No, the movie just ended. Oh, okay. It just doesn't feel like this story has much impact. It does a little bit to set up the future of the MCU, introducing some new things and some new potential team-ups moving forward. But in terms of Sam Wilson as a character, it kind of feels like he was just there. The story of Falcon and Winter Soldier, of him having to grow into the role of Cap and accept that about himself and really feel comfortable in that role, was way more interesting. I would have rather seen something like that on the big screen rather than something where it's just like he's there, an incident just occurs around him and he just kind of has to deal with it and then we move on. It feels rather inconsequential, which is lame. Even by the end, I'm just thinking, what did we really gain from this? There's a post-credit scene, only one. You could remove it entirely. It doesn't matter. You may as well have not had it. There were a lot of reports about rewrites and reshoots, and we don't know for sure how much of that is exactly accurate, how much of it is exaggerated, what all of it consisted of. I'm not trying to speculate too much about the behind-the-scenes goings-on, but there were elements that kind of felt like they were part of those reshoots. Mainly some exposition-heavy scenes, which really just kind of felt like lazy writing in the first place, because they were so straightforward, like, this is what this man is doing. Yes, that is what he is doing. Why? Here is why. And that is because of this that happened to him? Yes, that is why. And it's like, it's so just telling the audience exactly what's going on, kind of talking down to us, really lame, boring way to reveal your story, especially in a movie that should be a political thriller, but it feels like you're treating us like we're children, especially in a story that is so simplistic and easy to understand. So it's already kind of lame in those scenes, but those scenes feel a little reshooty because they're just people standing next to each other talking, easy to pick up and shoot whenever you need to. And when you do a rewrite, you need to change the direction of the story. You gotta throw in a quick scene of exposition to set the audience on track for where we're going now. So those were the scenes that felt like a little of that behind the scenes trouble reared its head. And I feel really bad for Anthony Mackie. The movie is not a disaster by any means. It has its good elements, it has its watchability with some of the action, and mainly these two characters and performances, but I just wanted more for him. Finally getting to step into this role, take the lead. There is obviously a certain group of people out there who want this movie to fail for reasons unrelated to its quality. You know the type of people that I'm talking about. And I would love to say a big fuck you to those people and have this movie be as good as possible, but I can't lie about the many, many faults that it does have. It seems like it's going to be a box office success, and I am happy about that. I do want to see more of Anthony Mackie as Captain America going forward in his own stories and in team-ups. I think Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four look good. This is not the end of the MCU. The MCU is dead, as you've said about every MCU movie that has come out for the past 5 years. If this franchise has really died and yet kept going as many times as you fucking people apparently say that it has, I mean, then clearly it has earned it, right? Because it keeps resurrecting itself from the dead. They just had a $1 billion movie last year. We're probably going to be pretty financially successful with most of the movies going forward, and I do very much care about their quality. I do wish this had been better than it was. I'm not saying to just accept anything they throw out there. Absolutely not. But I do think there are a lot of people who are way too willing to completely judge a movie before they've even seen it, or to exaggerate about a movie even after they've seen it, and that goes in both directions. There's a lot of people who are like, it's a cinematic masterpiece, and you need to calm down. Then there's a lot of people who will take some of the behind-the-scenes news about reshoots or inflated budget or rewrites or whatever and use that to kind of enforce their narrative and paint it as worse than it really is. because it's like mid to low tier MCU. It's absolutely not the worst that the franchise has offered. People need to go into things with open minds, stop letting preconceived notions affect you too much. People need to just judge things fairly and calm the fuck down. I wish this movie had been better, but like most films, it is somewhere in the middle. It's fine. It has its watchable elements. It's not something that I would revisit just on its own because I felt like it. If I was doing an MCU marathon, a Captain America marathon, I could probably throw it on and not cry about it, you know? But it's not something I would be in a rush to revisit. I'm gonna put Captain America Brave New World in the middle. It's a 3. It's okay. I wish it had been a lot better, but it's fine. It has more things going against it than it does for it, really. I just can't escape the feeling of this was not good enough for Sam Wilson or Anthony Mackie. It didn't make enough of an impact. You needed something stronger for the cinematic debut of our new lead Captain America. And it just felt so inconsequential with so many wasted characters and a plot that is so simplistic. And when you compare it to like Winter Soldier, one of the absolute best of the MCU, I mean, that's just leagues above. And then Civil War is great. And I think the first Avenger is really underrated. Captain America, the first Avenger, really, really good. That is up there with Iron Man for me as the best of Phase 1. And this just doesn't hold a candle to any of those 3, unfortunately. Felt like they bit off a bit more than they could chew, didn't know how to handle all of these story elements, and it came out a bit of a mess, unfortunately. So, that's it. That's all I have to say about that. Leave your thoughts on Captain America Brave New World down in the comments. Whether you agree or disagree, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think about the return of these characters like Tim Blake Nelson's leader, all of the references and things that we're going to get going forward in the MCU? Did this disappoint? Did it surprise you? Reactions are going to be all over the place. So leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to talk about it. Leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I recently uploaded an early review of The Monkey, the new film from Osgood Perkins, and I should have a review of Scott Derrickson's The Gorge coming pretty soon. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.